So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
Don't let anybody gaslight you. This was not just a stroll through the Capitol. It was violent.
Yes, it was absolutely violent, and it was religiously motivated. And
yes.
Welcome back to my channel. I am your host, G.I. Wingnut. We are moving right along, and I'm going to go ahead and start jumping into some of these players from back in the day. So let's start with Jerry Falwell, just for the giggles of it, because in this particular clip, I've got a couple of things that I definitely want to react to. So let's get right into this.
Last night, the regional chapter of the Moral Majority met at Senator Kennedy's home and appointed and anointed him as local chairman.
Okay, so you obviously hear some folks laughing. This is because there's an inside joke. We'll get to that in a moment.
And we had the advantage of the fact that his mother is a fundamentalist in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways. So he had.
So that was Senator Ted Kennedy. And if you look right here, you'll see that he was a member of the Democrat Party and a prominent member of the Kennedy family. What are we seeing today? There's a certain President Trump who's railed on a Kennedy before and now's appointed him to a position in the government, apparently. Anyway, moving along, because there's something else I spotted in here that kind of set off some bells and whistles.
Had a little experience with this. I was in this room just the other night when the senator's name was taken in vain. I was here when the Washington Press Club was honoring the Congress, and as John Reagan slept, and
Yeah, sleepy jokes. They never get old, do they?
John D. Rockefeller IV was, as a freshman senator from West Virginia, being roasted, and he came to the flat platform telling about the terrible experience of moving here, looking for property. And he said, you wouldn't believe the prices, that only a Kennedy could afford this kind of land.
And that's funny. How? Why?
And finally he said, you'd never believe what they want for the ellipse. But his wife had decided never to let him run for president because she didn't want to move into a smaller house.
And I happen to recall that there's been plenty of talk, especially when Donald Trump got his first term in office, that he was moving into a smaller home when he moved out of his Trump Tower apartment in New York City.
I know the senator had to feel, walking into this group, much like Daniel did walking into the lion's den, and much like I did walking into Harvard. But I agree, I concur with what the senator has said here this morning, that we have one very basic common denominator that equates every one of us, and that is we are free-born Americans, and we are charged with the responsibility of keeping this the bastion of freedom. At any American denominator that equates every one of us, and that is we are free-born Americans, and we are...
Hold my coffee.
Mighty I am present. I am here, O God, and I am the instrument of those sevenfold rays and archangels.
We are your instrument of those sevenfold rays and all your archangels, all of them.
And I will not retreat. I will take my stand. I will not fear to speak, and I will be the instrument of God's will, whatever it is.
We will not retreat. retreat. We will not retreat.
So I hope you get the point there. If you don't know who Mike Flynn is and who Elizabeth Clare Prophet was, these are people that I can address later. But in a nutshell, Elizabeth Clare Prophet was the leader of a UFO doomsday cult. And, well, Mike Flynn, a disgraced U.S. military general and cult leader, because he's big into MAGA and he's big into QAnon. But anyway, I got to move on.
We are charged with the responsibility of keeping this the bastion of freedom at any price for our children's and children's sake.
Hang on, let me back that up. At any cost? Is that really what he said?
It's the bastion of freedom at any price for our children's and children's sake.
So what have we heard Donald Trump saying? We got to do it for the children, right? And at any cost, up to and including destroying the country. These are things I learned during my deconstruction.
And Senator, thank you for coming here today very, very much. America enters the second half of the 1980s, a period some have properly called a decade of destiny, faced with some very crucial and complicated issues, problems that we no longer can ignore or allow to go unsolved. We have an overwhelming and spiraling deficit caused by 50 years of new deals and bad deals and great societies and sick societies.
Okay, when it comes to the fight about the New Deal thing, that's how we got Richard Nixon. Because I will link to the video that I've already done about that. I'll drop it in the description, and let's get on with this.
Societies and a prevailing philosophy within both major political parties that we can eventually spend ourselves out of debt.
That we can eventually spend ourselves out of debt. Alrighty then. I've got some more stuff to show you. This is wild. So I brought to you some of that Jerry Falwell stuff from the past. I've mentioned to you how some of it is parallel to some of the things that we're seeing today. Now, I want to move on into some other things from the past that are still affecting us today. I want to introduce you to this song right here, Keep on the Firing Line. I'm not particularly familiar with the Ralph Stanley version, but I do remember it being on the Bill and Gloria Gaither program. I do remember it being promoted on several different shows. I'm going to get to the lyrics in just a little bit. Bluegrass hymn and a praise hymn. And, oh, here's some old Florida boys. Anyway, it's an old song. It's been around for a while. Marty Stewart has done it. Blackwood Brothers Quartet. That's one of the versions that I was familiar with. We're going to get to the particular version that I heard growing up, and there's a story behind it. There's the Carter family, and when I saw this mode of dress, it reminded me of Lulabelle and Scotty and their song "I'm No Communist." Now, this is interesting because these are themes that we're still hearing today in American politics, today being February 7th, 2025. So this is Mr. Lowell Mason, and he was promoted by the moral majority, and he and his family traveled around to different churches to do their music sets. And I remember this distinctly because he came to our church. And I've said before, I grew up Assemblies of God, and we were big on this stuff. I was all in. I did not know anything different. But anyway, to Lowell Mason, you can tell that from his body proportions that he is not of what would be considered average stature. Yes, he's a little person. I can go into the nuances about that, but I'm not going to. Anyway, they used to joke about the only thing bigger than Lowell's mouth was his belt buckle. Anyway, so let's take a look at what the lyrics to this song are. If you're in the battle for the Lord and the right, just keep on the firing line. If you win the battle, surely you must fight. Keep on, brother, keep on the firing line. Keep on the firing line, keep on the firing line. Time is getting short. Jesus coming soon. Keep on the firing line. Now, this might sound innocent enough, but I mean, if you're expecting the end of the world and for Jesus to return and to be persecuted by everybody and everything, and, you know, it makes it easy to think that you might need a combatant mindset. And we're going to get to that. But anyway, in this next section, next verse. There are many dangers everyone must face. If you die fighting, there is no disgrace. With the Lord for coward, you will find no place. Brother, keep on the firing line. So they're promoting a militant mentality here. This isn't just about spiritual warfare. They were talking physical warfare. We thought we were going to have to tangle with the government. We did. That's what was being taught to us as fallout from like Great Planet Earth. And its drive to look and reinterpret the book of Revelation. Anyway, brother, keep on the firing line, of course. God can only use the soldier he can trust to keep on the firing line. If you wear the crown, bear the cross, you must keep on the firing line. And then it repeats the chorus a couple more times. So, yeah, I learned this back in the 70s, and you can see that it goes back into way further than that. All right, we'll get on to this next section.
As you go about forming your new government and selecting the people who are going to head the cabinet, be in your cabinet, and run the government, how much consideration are you going to give to the advice of these new conservative organizations and the moral majority and people like the Reverend Jerry Falwell?
I am going to be open to these people. You are president of all the people, and I'm going to want to seek advice where I think that I can get advice from those who are familiar with a particular problem. I'm not going to separate myself from the people who elected us and sent us there.
We have a threefold primary responsibility. Number one, get people saved. Number two, get them baptized. Number three, get them registered to vote.
There's always a method to my madness. Here, check this out. So, if you weren't there, this happened.
Nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it.
Hang on a minute. I got something else. So he claims he doesn't know about it. Well, let's just check this out.
It's an incredible honor to be here tonight to celebrate this really wonderful foundation. Just a few months from now, you will mark the 45th anniversary of this esteemed institution. As Americans, we have inherited a special legacy of freedom, culture, laws, traditions, and values. Your organization is named the Heritage Foundation because you understand that our glorious heritage is the foundation of everything we hope to achieve. You understand that human progress must be built upon a firm foundation of timeless truths. And the most important truth our founders understood was this: freedom is not a gift from government. Freedom is a gift from God.
All right, I'm actually apologetic for making you go through that, but the duality and the hypocrisy is endless. But there was that Bishop Buddy recently asked Trump, since you claim to be a godly man, please have mercy. And it gave her a lot of backlash. It got her a lot of backlash because some folks just don't like their dear leader getting called out. And this is what happens when you have a culty environment like MAGA is, which is why they're not afraid to push ahead. But I've got more on that, so hold on. Okay, I have another fact check up for us here as to whether or not Trump even knows what Project 2025 is. So let's check this out real quick.
Former President Trump has repeatedly denied knowledge of the so-called Project 2025 policy plan or even who is behind it. But a new photo circulating on social media is not helping those claims. We've verified the photo appears to be genuine. This is the image in question, which shows Donald Trump aboard a private plane alongside Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts. The Heritage Foundation is the group collectively authoring the Project 2025 document. A reverse image search leads us to a Washington Post article published yesterday. The newspaper says it obtained the photo from people who say they were familiar with the trip Trump made back in April 2022 to a Heritage Foundation function in Florida. We tried to obtain the footage of that keynote speech, but YouTube removed the video from the Heritage Foundation's own YouTube page. The group says the reason YouTube gave them for censoring the video was, quote, violating policies pertaining to election misinformation, end quote. Another video on a pro-Trump account on the streaming site Rumble is similarly no longer viewable, but transcripts of that speech remain published. About 46 minutes into the video, Trump is heard to say the Heritage Foundation will, quote, lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do, end quote.
And we're going to get into some of those plans. I will drop the link for you for the Project 2025 private training videos that were dropped by ProPublica. So let's see, what do I have up next? Okay, so in this next clip, I'm bringing in Mr. John Collins from the William Branham Historical Research Center, and he's going to explain to us the Joel's Army doctrine, because that's important for where we're moving on in the rest of this video. So take it away, John.
Joel's Army was a militant extremist version of Christianity, birthed from the manifest Sons of God doctrine of William Branham after his very popular revivals in the late 1940s, and one of the foundational elements of the New Apostolic Reformation today. At the point of time when the healing revivals intersected with the latter rain revivals, leaders in the movement frequently referred to the second chapter of the Old Testament book of Joel as their proof text, redirecting its prophecy from its original context of ancient Israel to that of modern times by alleging that key phrases within the chapter symbolically pointed to the 20th century. The day of darkness from Joel 2:2 was repurposed to mean end of days, and the Northern Army from Joel 2:20 referred to Russia, and Joel 2:3 referred to the world wars. Verses 21 through 25 became the proof text used to declare the movement's authority and position as the spiritually elite as compared to the rest of Christianity. This militant stance against what they considered to be, quote, cold formal religion, in other words, mainstream Christianity, became a central theme within the Healing Revival. And eventually, traditional and even less formal denominations of Christian faith were given this disparaging label. Members of mainstream Christianity were viewed as cold and formal by leaders of the movement that used Branham's doctrines in their sermons. Even Pentecostals who did not join into the movement were labeled cold and formal. The authoritative view of new religious teachings and predictions as, quote, God's spoken word gave rise to the notion that God himself was being made manifest through these self-appointed apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. You can learn this and more on william-branham.org.
You can also find his work at Leaving the Message YouTube channel. I'll try to remember to drop a link for that. So why is all of that important to me? Because when I was growing up, I was taught that the armies of the North were the bear, which was Russia, and that anyway, there was a lot of eisegesis. There was a lot of interjection of self and identity into the scriptures that were written 2,000 years ago without any concern for what's going on now. It didn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, up next, I've got this delightful little piece here. Let me see about making that larger. And this is actually from John Hagee. So let's see how this fits into where I'm getting to on the modern timeline as far as influences and what we're seeing.
As I'm sure you're aware, in August we're going to witness a very rare solar eclipse. Do you think there's any biblical significance with that occurrence?
Only this, that the Bible says that in the end of days you will see signs and wonders in the sky. And there are signs and wonders that are happening in the sky that never happened before. They are not quite as dramatic as the 4 blood moons, because
signs and wonders. Eclipses that haven't happened before? Excuse me? Eclipses happen on the regular. There's a whole calendar you can look at for online as to when the eclipses are going to happen and what the eclipse paths are. And the blood moons, the color of the moon depends upon the impurities in the atmosphere. Anyway, so they think it's the end of days, and so they think they can push things to a really crazy degree. Here, hang on. Up to and including this happening.
It was nearly 2,000 years ago that the most powerful nation in the ancient world laid siege to Israel and destroyed Solomon's temple. But today, the most powerful nation in the modern world is standing with our Jewish friends and the Israeli government.
So the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is dedicated, double down, end all, be all, by all means, standing with Israel. And I think it was just last week, there was further talk from Trump about turning the Gaza Strip into a resort. And it wasn't but a year or two ago, maybe a year ago or so, that Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, was talking about making it the Riviera of the Middle East. I mean, oh my goodness. Anyway, I've got more, and let's get to that. Okay, so in this next little clip, it should be fairly self-explanatory, and its importance will be revealed very shortly.
Why not?
I don't think we need any more holidays.
Why not a Martin Luther King Day?
I just feel that there are other black Americans and the corporate body of black Americans who are due honor more than one recent individual about whom there's a great question mark even to this moment.
What is the question mark?
The question mark is that so far all the records on him are sealed. And neither you, Tom, nor I really know what they're going to say.
Are you talking about his personal character,
yes,
his personal
correct.
morality, and his personal life,
and he may
as well
be
as any connection?
He may be as clean as Billy Graham, but we don't know that because the records are sealed.
Billy Graham is a subject for another video. But why do I bring up the no MLK Day thing? Here, let me move myself around there a little bit. It's because of this Pentagon agency pauses celebrations for Martin Luther King Day, Black History Month, and more. So if you don't know who this guy is, that's Mr. Pete Hegseth, the new Secretary of Defense for the United States military. And he, for one, I personally believe that he's absolutely unqualified to have that position. But he's also all in on Trump, he's all in on MAGA, and he's all in on the America First policies, which I'm going to address here in just a moment. I now present for your edification the America First Agenda policy. America deserves a better and brighter future. American citizens need policies, blah, blah, blah. You can pause and read that if you want to. So here are the pillars. We've got make the greatest economy in the world work for all Americans. Seems to me like they're wrecking it, so they're not holding up to that one. Put patients and doctors back in charge of health care. How are you going to do that if you destroy health care? So they're not tracking very quick. Restore America's historic commitment to freedom, equality, and self-governance. Restore freedom, equality, and self-governance. So what they mean here is go backwards. Give parents more control over education of their children. They've been pushing charter schools, diverting public education funds into these charter schools. Secure the border and end human trafficking and defeat the drug cartels. I'll come back to the hypocrisy on their end human trafficking claim here. Securing the border. We'll address that another time. But it's the next pillar, pillar number 6, that provides me with concern. Deliver peace through strength and American leadership. Well, see, I'm a Cold War vet. And back in our day, our motto was peace through superior firepower. What they're talking about here is military supremacy of America over the world. We can take a deeper look at that here in just a moment. Make America energy independent, blah, blah. Make it easy to vote and hard to cheat, whatever. Provide safe and secure communities to all Americans, so all Americans can live lives in peace. Oh, you mean like by sweeping up people that are unhoused and putting them in camps in national forest lands? Yeah, he actually said that. Fight government corruption by draining the swamp. They're packing the swamp. But let's go back to this deliver peace through, let's see. The American victories in World War II and the Cold War established the U.S. as the last best hope for man on earth. Freedom's cause in every part of the world depends upon a strong America where our country is secure. Yeah, they're talking police state, which is exactly what Peter Thiel wants. Peter Thiel, owner of Palantir, one of the founders of Palantir, yeah, he wants a global surveillance state. So, good grief. This is wild. This is wild, folks. All right, let's go ahead and just address this Kennedy for president thing and how it switched over to a whole Kennedy Trump thing. And you can go and look. RFK Jr. got grilled, absolutely grilled about vaccines and abortions. And he got caught up on a few things. But anyway. Wow. So there's been a long design on this, and let me see if I can try to summarize this particular episode up easy enough. I think I can sum it all up pretty much in one word. That one word would be fear. What is fear? Fear is an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger, or maybe the appearance of danger. An insistence of this emotion, a state marked by this emotion. Anxious concern, solicitude, profound reverence and awe, especially towards God. Reason for alarm, there's danger. To be afraid of, expect with alarm, fear the worst. To be a reverential awe of, fear of God. Archaic, it means to be frightened. Also, to feel fear in oneself. So, as an archaic term, to be frightened, if you have people that are frightened, they are less likely to think clearly. Let's say, for example, I don't know, an earthquake's just happened, or a tornado hit, or a hurricane has happened, some other catastrophic natural event, or maybe you've been in a car crash, or any other sudden traumatic experience, and you're not sure how to respond. Chances are you're initially having a fear response, because fear of the unknown is the most common fear amongst humans. If you can keep people afraid, if you can feed them bad information, if you can make them see things, notice patterns that don't really matter, then you're able to keep their mental abilities or their mental balance off balance. Thought-stopping phrases like, trust me, bro, or you're misled, without providing counterpoints, without providing the evidence for the counter stance, then I tend to disregard the comments of individuals, unless they can also otherwise point me in the direction of information that I don't have to pay for. A while back, I had a conversation with an individual, and they were telling me that I was misguided, that I didn't understand that the author of this book, this guy that they thought was super cool, had claimed that the records that I was aware of were inaccurate because he would know he was there. But the only way I could verify the information was to go and buy the author's book. Needless to say, that conversation didn't last much longer. I sometimes find it challenging as an advocate for human rights, especially against domestic and sexual violence and human trafficking, that there's so much corruption and nonsense going on that people can't see because they're given some sort of external object to be afraid of, to turn their fears and angers towards. And this is how people are controlled. I believe it was Voltaire said something to the effect that those who can be led to believe absurd things can be led to perform atrocious actions or perform atrocities, something to that effect. It's about the best way I can sum it up. Fear-mongering. Psychological operations through fear-mongering by othering people. These are tactics that have been utilized by authoritarian regimes throughout time. Anyway, I need to get this wrapped up. I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to address in the next video, but I assure you I will be able to link information from 50, 60, 70 years ago to the exact same rhetoric that's being spouted now with a lot more vitriol and a much larger footprint because of the advancements of technologies. I'm not saying that the advancement of technology is bad. I'm just saying that America in particular is, in my opinion, strongly lacking in rational thinking and being taught rational thinking and how to understand propaganda and how it works and how to actually check your stories. If you're not aware of some of the craziness going on that's falling out of the alt-right movement, I suggest that you go and take a look at the deposition videos, the most recent deposition videos of Steven Crowder and I think it was Tim Pool. And anyway, it's really interesting stuff. It's available on YouTube, and I highly recommend you check it out. So, until the next video, take care of yourselves, people. Mental health matters. Take care of each other. Community matters. Be empathetic. That's what really matters.